Live from Penn State's campus, this is Nittany Talk. I'm Kaylee Grill, and today we will be discussing our thoughts on the top stories of the past week, reacting to Penn State's favorite artist and biggest pet peeves, and sharing our thoughts on HBO's original series, Euphoria Season 2 so far. Now let's get to talking. Welcome back to Nittany Talk and our new segment, 7 Days in 7 Minutes, where my co-hosts Kayla Marrero, Francie Ebert, and Kaylin Green will bring you the most pressing stories of each day of the week in under 60 seconds.
The United States is discussing the deployment of American military forces to Eastern Europe with its NATO's allies. President Joe Biden is weighing the options in response to Russia's threat against Ukraine. The administration has placed 8,500 troops on heightened alert. Currently, there is no diplomatic breakthrough in sight for Moscow and its neighbor, as they mass more than 100,000 troops at the border.
The Labor Department announced that the Biden administration is withdrawing its requirement that large employers mandate that workers be vaccinated against the coronavirus or tested regularly. The Supreme Court decision was 6-3, stating the Labor Department's Occupational Safety and Health Administration did not have the authority to require the vaccine.
Put down your number 2 pencils because the College Board announced the SAT will go completely digital by 2024. The era of making sure your bubbles are completely filled in is over. A growing number of colleges have eliminated the requirement of students submitting their SAT or ACT scores. The test optional trend accelerated greatly during the pandemic.
The oldest member of the Supreme Court, Justice Stephen Breyer, will retire upon his successor's confirmation. President Joe Biden and his legal team have spent a year preparing for this moment. They now have the opportunity to make good on their pledge to nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court, where they have previously struggled for representation in the small pool of elite judges.
Just hours before Joe Biden's scheduled visit to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to discuss the condition of the country's infrastructure, a bridge in the city of Bridges collapsed. At least 10 people sustained non-life-threatening injuries. According to inspectors, the bridge was around 50 years old.
Tom Brady, widely recognized as the greatest quarterback of all time, has decided to retire from the NFL during his career. He comprised 7 Super Bowl wins, 9 Super Bowl appearances, 5 Super Bowl MVP awards, 365 games, and 22 seasons. He spent the first 20 seasons with the New England Patriots and the last 2 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Rihanna and Aesop are expecting their first child together. The news was confirmed after the couple was photographed in the snowy streets of New York City. Rihanna's baby bump showed underneath her unbuttoned, oversized pink jacket paired with colorful jewels. In one photo, Aesop kisses her forehead while she shows off the profile of her baby bump.
Well, it was a pretty busy week in the news, from politics to sports to entertainment, but I was really living for these photos of Rihanna and A$AP Rocky, and Rihanna showing off her baby bump in New York City. They were actually pictured together in Harlem, which is A$AP Rocky's hometown, but I've been following this couple since they started dating back in 2020, and I think I'm going to even love them even more as parents. But I know one thing's for sure, they'll definitely be dressing their child to the nines. These two are fashion icons, so I'm really excited to see what they're going to put their child in. Kayla, what did you think of this week's stories?
I think this week's story, I want to touch on Tom Brady. Like, everyone now knows he's retiring, which I was actually kind of surprised, but at the same time, I'm not surprised because he's done a lot in football history. This league led the league in 5,316 passing yards, 485 completions, and 43 touchdowns. He dedicated his life to football. There's movies about him. There's books about him. He's done so much for NFL history. But when I was looking at his Instagram today, he did not expressly show his appreciation for the Patriots, his football coach, but I think he would like appreciate them on a private side because right now he's with the Buccaneers. But besides that, I'm very appreciative with Tom Brady. He's done so much in NFL history. But what about you, Francie? What was your favorite thing?
I gotta say, the new baby. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I didn't see it coming. I don't know about you guys, but I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
I didn't. And of course, it was on every single Instagram story. All of my girlfriends had that on there. I don't know. It was really cute to see. But I was really surprised about this bridge in Pittsburgh. They, like you said, it's a city of bridges, and Biden, ironically, was on his way to Pittsburgh to talk about infrastructure of the city, and of course, this bridge collapsed. And I think it's crazy because it was snowy, and there was 5 vehicles on the bridge at the time. Luckily, no one was killed, which is really good. But there were some people that had to go to the hospital. I was just surprised because at the same time, there was also a gas leak. So this bridge collapsed, and the people around, like the houses surrounding this area, had to be evacuated. So these poor people in these homes, too, had to leave, which obviously was not inconvenient. Also, the bridge itself collapsing is inconvenient because I know that bridge from point A to point B, it's a big one. I know a lot of people commute on this one to get into I think it's a park, or through the park, but it struck me as insane, almost. What about you?
I didn't know that there was a gas leak.
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
either.
Yeah, I didn't know it was like, one thing on top of another.
Yeah.
But I think what shocked me the most this week is the Supreme Court nominations, like the judging, because that's pretty big. And I feel like even over the past few years with incorporating women as judges has been a huge monumental thing. And now there's talk of having, a person of color, black woman, in the Supreme Court. And I just think that's, it's really monumental, and we'll see if it happens. And I mean, it just might, because this is the first time ever that we've had a woman holding a vice president position. So who knows what's going to happen.
What about those SATs though? I didn't know that.
Those teenagers are so lucky.
What?
Test optional. Test optional.
That is crazy. That's all everyone really talked about for the past however long. SATs.
Yeah.
What you get in
It's
your
how'd you
SAT.
do?
It's amazing to me because that was always something that was very set in stone. That was always part of preparing for college, and it's amazing to see how the pandemic has changed so much in our lives, even when it comes to college preparation.
Right, because all of a sudden, all of these colleges are following this trend, and I guess it's easier for them to. I mean, I'm assuming they don't have to go through as much applications with SATs because you have to weigh the odds. But I was just that really surprised me.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I know when I took my ACTs for my high school, I took the ACT test 4 times so I could get the best number possible. But even at the 4th time, it was the same score.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they are taking a different approach for this. But I seen that Harvard actually was the first one to decide that they were going to stop the SAT or ACT for their school. So I'm just wondering, are other colleges going to take the same approach as Harvard? Who knows?
I think it'll definitely trickle down. I think we'll see a trend in digital testing, and definitely more so than we have seen before.
Yeah, because I was thinking high SAT scores have always been the number one thing to get into Ivy Leagues and stuff like that. So that's really changing the game. Is it going to rely more on kids' grades now, their essays, or is that going to be more of a determining factor?
I kind of like to see that colleges are looking at other things other than the SAT scores, though. I have a lot of intelligent friends that I know just aren't good test takers, but they still have so much to offer. So I think it's a good change, and I'm excited to see what kind of they'll place more of a weight on now that SAT and ACT scores aren't going to be the main thing.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that statement.
Yeah, so now kids don't have to worry about, what grade did you get? What grade did you get? Now the only thing they have to worry about is their involvements in school, their essays. But I think that's the best thing about that.
Because I know people usually like push, you know, you got to be involved in everything in like your high schools and stuff like that. But I feel like nobody ever really talked about how important, well, they talked about it, but like it was always stressed a lot more that you should be like a well-rounded student. And now like that barrier is breaking a little bit. So it's pretty exciting.
Well, there was definitely some discussion-worthy stories this week, but that concludes our discussion. For today, we hope you enjoyed our stories of the week. For Nittany Talk, I'm Kaylee Grill.
Hey Penn State, we asked our social media, PSU Nittany Talk, different questions for our brand new segment, Penn State Says. We asked and you answered. All right, now let's get into it. With our first question, we asked, what is your biggest pet peeve? I would have to say I'm going to go for the talking and chewing. Two separate things. No one should be talking with their mouth open. It's not polite. And it's annoying.
I definitely agree. I think one of the pet peeves that I seen was people arriving places late. I can't really say much about that because I think I go to a lot of places late, except for class, interviews, stuff that's really important. But hangouts, I'm always the last person to get there. So on to our next question is the favorite nap spots. One of my favorite responses was class. I've done this plenty of times. I took naps in different classes just because if the professor turned the light off, I'm going to go to sleep, especially if it's a 30-minute video. I can't stand that.
Me too. If the lights are down and there's not much noise going on and I didn't get much sleep that night, I'm definitely falling asleep. And I know another answer we got was the Commons, which I kind of was surprised by because I feel like that's usually allowed. The Commons are usually a loud environment. So let's head on to our next question. Would you rather be a guest or a host? I think I would rather be a host.
I definitely agree too. That's why we're hosting today, honestly. Yep. But I think I wouldn't mind being a guest maybe 1 or 2 times just because I love to say my opinions and I love being interviewed as well.
I agree.
All right, on to our next question is the favorite artist. I've seen a lot of people said Drake, and he's also the executive producer of Euphoria, Ariana Grande. But my favorite artist is Bad Bunny. I'm going to see him in concert in August. I can't wait for that. And also, Bad Bunny does have a song with Drake called Mia. I definitely love that song.
That's awesome. I've never heard of Bad Bunny, but I got to go with Drake. I am a really big Drake fan. I love the Arctic Monkeys, and I know that was one of the responses that we received. Ariana Grande, like you said, she has a great voice. She projects it so beautifully in any performance that I've seen. But yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think I wouldn't mind seeing Ariana Grande in a concert, but it also depends on how much tickets are. Just because I just bought my ticket recently, and it was pretty expensive. I'm not gonna lie here, but I really hope to see her in concert.
All right, next question. Would you prefer a snow day or a rain day? Majority of the answers we got was snow, which I would agree with. If it's going to precipitate, I would totally rather have snowflakes and sledding than gloomy rain.
I definitely agree. I love snow days just because we don't have to go to class in person. But there's also the embarrassment moment of you falling. That was me yesterday. I was walking down my friend's steps, and then, I slipped down the wooden stairs. And it was just so embarrassing. My phone fell, my water bottle. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's a lot. The snow can get scary, especially driving, the ice. It's a lot to manage.
I definitely agree. But rain, I hate rain because anytime it rains, it gets so gloomy. I don't want to go to class. I just want to sleep all day. So if we can have the sun, I would love that.
Me too. I definitely would prefer the sun over rain and snow.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Well, that's all the time we have in this segment of Penn State Says. For Nittany Talk, I'm Francie Ebert.
Welcome back to Nittany Talk. After more than a year of anticipation, HBO's original series Euphoria premiered Season 2 on January 9th. People have a lot to say about Season 2 so far, specifically around the characters, storylines, and visuals. Today we are going to discuss what we like, dislike, and what the season looks like so far. And wow, I feel like there is so much to unpack, especially in last week's episode. But I feel like we got to start off with the Nate, Cassie, Maddie situation. And my biggest question is, do you think Maddie knows about Nate and Cassie?
I think Maddie doesn't, because I think if she did, she'd be messing with Cassie a little bit. Because their relationship is a little funky, because Cassie loves her best friend. She's also kind of in love with Nate. So it's kind of like we have this circle going on, and I hope Maddie, when she does find out, or if she might already know, we don't know. I hope she doesn't lose her top, because I can see this going real bad, real quick.
I'm pretty sure Maddie's gonna, she's gonna throw a fit when she finds out. But to be honest, in last Sunday's episode when they were like sitting in the hot tub, when Maddie and Nate were having that conversation, she kind of kept glancing at
that's what I was
Cassie,
thinking.
and I was like,
Really?
maybe maybe
I
if you
didn't
go
see
back
that.
and watch it,
Yeah,
you'll
I did
notice
not
it a
notice
little
the
bit
first
more.
time I watched it, but when I watched it again, I was rewatching the scenes on TikTok, and a lot of people were speculating that maybe Maddie knew because she was making eye contact with Cassie the whole time. So that's kind of where I was coming from.
Because there was definitely like some awkward energy when they were sitting in that hot tub. So who knows?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Maddie does have like a hint of what's going on, but she doesn't exactly know what's happening. But I feel like when Maddie finds out, she's gonna beat up Cassie just because in one of the episodes, they had a flashback where Maddie was beating up Cassie multiple times. So I don't think she'll just take the news very lightly. And then plus Nate's all in the way. I don't like what he's doing to either of them. He's very fake, and someone's going to get hurt. Actually, everyone's going to get hurt. But sooner or later, something's going to happen, and I just can't wait to find out what.
Sydney Sweeney is my queen. I loved Cassie's character last season, but she's kind of been a hot mess this season, especially in last episodes with the balloons and the drinking and the throwing up in the hot tub. And I've always been a Cassie stan, but I think she's kind of going off her rails this season a little bit.
I agree. I mean, she's all of a sudden, she's comfortable lying to her best friend. Then she's also like hinting on Nate that like they're gonna be together forever in this little like perfect little fairy tale. When in reality, that's not reality. Like Cassie's got to get it in her head that Maddie, if she's her actual best friend, she shouldn't be messing with her boyfriend. That's just not how it goes. That's not how friendships go.
And then when Nate and Cassie were having that conversation in his bathroom, and she was like, oh, I'll do anything to make sure that you and Maddie don't get together again. Like, and you think you and Nate are gonna get together? He's not good for either one of them.
Not at all.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I just think like that episode just teaches how our society normalized toxic love, and that's a perfect example. Like Maddie and Nate, that's very toxic, and also Cassie. I feel like Cassie doesn't know how to love or how to be loved. So with her and Nate, she really thinks that's genuine love, which it's really not. It's very obsessive, and I hope Cassie gets her act together. I hope she realized that she can do way better than Nate because she's very beautiful. Both of them, Maddie and Cassie, can do way better than Nate.
I think it even goes back to the bathtub scene. I was like on the edge of my seat waiting to see if Maddie would look over. I find it ironic that she didn't. It's definitely, keeps the storyline interesting, but I was on the edge of my seat during that scene waiting for Maddie to find out.
Speaking of like finding out about things, why has nobody figured out that Rue has never been sober? She, in any of the scenes where she's talking to them, she has not been the least bit sober, and I don't know how it's not more like obvious that she's relapsed, like super relapsed.
Yeah, like her conversations and the way that she's just like presenting herself is all of a sudden not the Rue that we met in the beginning or when she was sober in the last season. I think that her as a character is just, I was going to say growing, but she's not growing. She's like kind of like in this circle and she's like kind of lost. And I think obviously that's a lot of the plot of the storyline of Euphoria is about how she's lost and she doesn't know what to do and she has all of these friends that are just as lost but in their own separate ways, which I think is kind of interesting. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, the character development is just not there. She's just going backwards.
Backwards.
And last episode, we kind of saw a new little love triangle between
Oh my
Rue and
goodness.
Jules. What are our thoughts on that?
I personally do not like it. I do not respect it just because I feel as like Jules, she's such a hypocrite. She's the one telling Rue, oh, you like Elliot, Elliot likes you, but here you go, Jules messing with Elliot. And then the fact that Elliot's really entertaining it, it just blew my mind because I honestly wanted Rue and Elliot. But now
So did I.
Jules
So
is
did
in the
I.
middle, and I can't support it.
Yeah, but how about them dating in real life? Elliot and
Yeah.
Jules. I
Yeah.
just thought that was interesting. I would have never saw that in a million years.
Yeah, for sure.
I always think finding out things that go on behind the scenes is so interesting. I had no idea they were dating in real life until one of my friends told me. And there are so many things that go on behind the scenes of the show. Like another big thing was Fez's character, and I guess how they found him on the street and kind of recruited him for the show. And they were asking him about what's it like to be this character, and he was like, "Oh, that's just how I am." And I thought that was another interesting, fun fact to know about what goes on behind the scenes with all the characters.
Like he's really just being himself, essentially, just on camera, which is pretty cool. And even I think Barbie Ferreira, I think is how you say her last name, she got picked up at a mall. They were like, "Yeah, we could see you acting in this project," and it just like
Is that an
happened.
insult or a compliment? I'm not sure.
I think that's funny. I mean, it's a pretty big show. You'd think they'd be having like auditions or something. They're just
Yeah.
I guess they're looking for someone who's actually going to be realistic with their.
I think that's what makes the show authentic, though. I think that's what makes it so interesting for viewers to watch.
Yeah, I definitely
For sure.
agree.
Well, that concludes our discussion on Euphoria Season 2 so far. Thanks for tuning to the Nittany Talk. I'm Kaylee Grill, and we'll see you next time.